Ever feel like navigating the world of immigration visas is less like a clear pathway and more like trying to solve a complex, constantly shifting puzzle? Well, you are definitely not alone in that feeling, and that's precisely why we're here, to try and cut through some of that complexity. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take dense, crucial information like, the latest U.S. Department of State Visa Bulletin and distill it into clear, actionable insights, specifically for you. Today, our mission is to embark on a meticulous comparison, pitting the brand new October 2025 Visa Bulletin right against its predecessor, the September 2025 Bulletin. We're not just reading dates off a list, we're really seeking to uncover the subtle yet significant shifts, maybe the unexpected surges, and perhaps the frustrating slowdowns, all driven by that crucial transition into a new fiscal year.
Indeed. And our deep dive today is really focused on understanding the true implications of this fiscal year reset. It's a big deal. We'll be meticulously exploring the key dates, the nuanced country-specific changes, and the numerical shifts across both family-sponsored and employment-based immigrant visa categories. And we'll also delve into the diversity visa program, of course. Our goal is to highlight not just what has moved or stalled, but more importantly, why these changes matter profoundly for those actively navigating these often, life-altering processes. This side-by-side comparison, October versus September, it offers an invaluable window into the availability of immigrant numbers right at the very start of a new fiscal year, FY 2026, compared to the closing moments of FY 2025. It's a moment of recalculation, reprioritization, and often renewed hope or, conversely, continued patience.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit before we plunge into the really intricate details of dates and categories. Because to truly grasp what these bulletins are telling us, it's essential to first establish some, foundational mechanics of how they operate. It's never just one date we're looking at, is it?
You've hit on a critical point there. Yeah, we primarily work with two distinct but interconnected types of dates here. First, we have the final action dates. Now, these are the dates that truly matter most for many people, as they indicate when visas can actually be issued, say, by a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad, or alternatively, when applications for adjustment of status, if you're already residing within the U.S., can finally be approved. However, and this is a crucial caveat for our listeners, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, they make their own determination each month. They decide whether they will use these final action dates or the dates for filing applications for adjustment of status purposes. So always cross-referencing their official website is an absolutely essential step for anyone planning to file that I-485 adjustment application.
Right, so you got to check both sources.
Exactly. Then we have the dates for filing applications. Now, these dates are essentially a green light for applicants to submit their required documentation and the associated fees to the National Visa Center, the NVC. Think of it as getting your paperwork queued up, putting it in order, and preparing it for future processing. It ensures you're ready when your priority date eventually aligns with the final action date. It's about getting into the pipeline, signaling your readiness.
And at the heart of this entire system is what's known as your priority date. Could you quickly recap that? It's basically your immutable place in line, right? A timestamp marking when your immigrant petition was first properly filed and received by the U.S. government.
Precisely. It's the chronological anchor for your entire immigration journey. Can't stress that enough. And this priority date becomes critically important when categories become oversubscribed. This occurs when the sheer demand for visas from qualified applicants far surpasses the statutory numerical limits that Congress has imposed on various visa categories in specific countries. When a category hits this point, a cutoff date is established. Only those with priority dates earlier than this published cutoff date are then eligible to move forward with their final visa processing. In the bulletin, if you see a C, it's fantastic news, it means current, indicating that visa numbers are immediately available for all qualified applicants in that category and region. No waiting based on date. Conversely, a U is a signal of concern. It stands for unauthorized or unavailable, meaning no numbers are currently authorized for issuance. This often indicates that the annual numerical limit for that specific category has already been reached or exhausted for the fiscal year.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting, because the start of a new fiscal year, FY 2026, starting in October, inherently brings with it a recalculation of these annual visa limits. This often leads to some subtle, but incredibly important shifts in the overall volume and allocation of available visas, right?
It's the annual reset that dictates the overarching volume, yeah. And it dictates how those visas are then distributed. And just to provide a deeper context here, the determination of these worldwide numerical limitations isn't arbitrary. It's a precise, legally mandated calculation performed annually by the State Department. And it's based on data they receive directly from USCIS regarding demand, number use, things like that. For FY 2025, the year that just ended in September, these limits were confirmed as 226,000 for family-sponsored visas and 150,037 for employment-based visas. The per-country limit, that was 7% of that total, equating to 26,323 visas, although some potential carryover provisions could push it slightly higher, maybe to 26,862. This foundational understanding helps us contextualize why the numbers we're about to discuss appear as they do. It's all interconnected.
Got it. So that was FY 2025.
Right. Now let's look at the shifts for the new fiscal year, FY 2026, starting with this October bulletin. For family-sponsored preference immigrants, the worldwide limit in September 2025, marking the end of FY 2025, was indeed 226,000. For October 2025, kicking off FY 2026, this worldwide limit remains at 226,000.
Okay, so no change there.
No change in the overall cap for family-based visas, which suggests, a consistent volume of these visas will be available, though their distribution among categories and countries will, of course, vary.
But for employment-based preference immigrants, there's a slight but significant tweak in the wording and the underlying numerical floor. The September 2025 bulletin for FY 2025 stated a worldwide level of 150,037 visas. What's changed?
Okay, so for October 2025, for FY 2026, the worldwide level is now explicitly stated as at least 140,000.
At least.
That seemingly small phrase, at least, is incredibly significant. It indicates a statutory minimum. The actual number can, in fact, be higher if there are unused family-sponsored visas from the previous fiscal year that carry over or fall down and become available for the employment-based categories. So the numerical decrease from 150,037 to the floor of 140,000 primarily reflects the statutory minimum. While it sounds like a reduction on the surface, the potential for those carryovers means the practical number could still be quite robust. We just don't know the exact final number yet.
Right, that makes sense. And the per-country limit, too, saw a small dip, directly reflecting these overall shifts in the preference limits.
That's exactly right. In September 2025, for FY 2025, the per-country limit was 7% of the total, which amounted to 26,323 visas. For October 2025 and FY 2026, this 7% now translates to 25,620. This slight decrease is a direct consequence of the overall preference limits we just discussed, particularly that statutory minimum for employment-based visas. Similarly, the dependent area limit, which is also capped, saw a reduction from 7,521 in FY 2025 down to 7,320 for FY 2026. These seemingly small numerical shifts, while not dramatic, can have profound impacts on individuals from countries with historically high demand. Even a few hundred less visas can mean months or even years of additional waiting for some people.
Absolutely. And consistently, both bulletins highlight the same persistently oversubscribed areas: China mainland-born, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. This is not a surprise, indicating enduring high demand in these regions across multiple categories, which I imagine we will certainly see reflected in the movement or perhaps the lack thereof in the various cutoff dates we're about to examine.
Precisely. Those 4 countries consistently face the longest waits due to the per-country limits combined with high application volume.
Okay, let's really get into the specifics now, beginning with the final action dates for family-sponsored preference cases. These are the critical dates, the ones that determine who can actually move forward and receive their visa right now or get their green card approved.
Absolutely. We'll meticulously break down each preference category, highlighting the precise movements from the end of FY 2025, that's September, to the start of FY 2026, which is this October bulletin. Starting with F1. This category covers unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. In September 2025, marking the end of the last fiscal year, the final action date for all chargeability areas, China and India, stood at July 15, 2016. Mexico was considerably further back at April 22, 2005, and the Philippines at July 15, 2012.
Okay, so that was September. What does October look like?
Now, looking at October 2025, we observed some solid and consistent advancements across the board for F1. For all chargeability, China and India, the date moved forward to November 8, 2016. Mexico saw a significant leap forward to November 22, 2005, and the Philippines advanced to January 22, 2013.
That's pretty good movement.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is the consistent, broad advancement in F1. For most categories, we're seeing a jump of approximately 4 months. Mexico experienced an even more substantial 7 months of progress, which is great news for them, and the Philippines about 6 months forward. This isn't just a numerical shift. It signals that the State Department is likely sort of front-loading visa allocations for this category at the very beginning of the fiscal year. It's a common strategy, to efficiently clear pending cases early on. So for our listeners, with the priority date that's now current in F1, this is your undeniable green light to act immediately. We've observed in the past that such rapid early movements can sometimes stabilize or even slow down as the year progresses, and these initial allocations get used up. So capitalizing on this window is paramount. Make sure all your documentation is in perfect order.
That's incredibly encouraging news for many families waiting in F1. Now moving to F2A, spouses and children of permanent residents. This category often has its own unique pressures. In September 2025, all chargeability, China, India, and the Philippines were all at September 1st, 2022. Mexico, however, lagged slightly behind at February 1st, 2022.
Okay, hold on to your hats for this one.
Come on.
Because in October 2025, we see a truly seismic shift. All chargeability, China, India, and the Philippines made a staggering leap forward to February 1st, 2024.
Wow, February 2024.
Yes, and Mexico also advanced significantly, moving forward to February 1st, 2023.
So for most F2A applicants, we're talking about an advancement of roughly 1 year and 5 months. For Mexico, a full year. This isn't just a positive shift, this is a massive acceleration. What specific factors do you think are driving such an unprecedented acceleration, especially right at the very beginning of a new fiscal year?
This is indeed a monumental development for the F2A category, impacting thousands and thousands of families. This substantial leap indicates a significant and very deliberate release of visa numbers, particularly as we kick off the new fiscal year. It could be a strategic imperative to reunite immediate family members, perhaps, maybe even to mitigate against the potential loss of unused family-sponsored numbers if they aren't allocated efficiently early in the year. That happens sometimes.
That makes sense.
The bulletin also specifies that for October, F2A numbers exempt from the per-country limit are authorized for issuance to applicants from all countries with priority dates earlier than February 1st, 2023. This significantly broadens the eligible pool compared to September's February 1st, 2022 cutoff. That exemption helps a lot. And crucially, all F2A numbers provided for Mexico continue to remain exempt from the per-country limit. This provides a distinct and sustained advantage that helps explain that full year of advancement for Mexican applicants.
Okay, so that exemption is key for Mexico.
Absolutely. For families caught in these F2A backlogs, this window represents a profound opportunity to move forward, and prompt action on documentation is absolutely critical. Don't wait.
Incredible news for F2A. Okay, what about F2B? That's unmarried sons and daughters aged 21 or older of permanent residents.
Right, F2B. In September 2025, all chargeability, China and India were at October 15th, 2016. Mexico was significantly earlier, back at April 1st, 2007. The Philippines was at May 1st, 2012. Now, for October 2025, all chargeability, China and India advanced to November 22, 2016. Mexico moved forward to December 15, 2007, and the Philippines advanced to October 1st, 2012.
So more positive news here, definitely, but certainly more modest in its scale compared to that dramatic F2A movement we just discussed.
Exactly. We see consistent, moderate advancements for F2B. For all chargeability, China and India, it's about a month of progress, suggesting a steady, incremental movement. Mexico saw approximately 8.5 months of movement, which is quite substantial for that specific country queue, and the Philippines advanced by 5 months. While not as dramatic as F2A, any forward momentum is always welcome for F2B applicants. It signals continued, albeit slower, number availability. It shows a continuous, measured release of visas into this pipeline, allowing a steady stream of applicants to become current.
Steady progress is still progress. Okay, F3, married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens.
Turning our attention to F3. In September 2025, all chargeability, China and India were at August 1st, 2011. Mexico, a long-standing backlog area, was way back at February 1st, 2001. The Philippines stood at May 1st, 2004. For October 2025, all chargeability, China and India advanced just slightly to September 8, 2011. Mexico moved forward a bit to April 15, 2001. And the Philippines advanced to September 22, 2004.
These are pretty subtle yet consistent advancements, aren't they? Very small steps.
Indeed. We're observing approximately 1 month of progress for all chargeability, China and India. Mexico saw about a 2.5-month advancement, and the Philippines moved forward by 4.5 months. These modest advancements signal a slow but, forward trajectory for this category. The demand in F3 typically keeps movement relatively conservative compared to other categories, and these incremental shifts highlight the persistent long-term nature of this queue. For those waiting, these small movements, while not revolutionary, confirm that the system is indeed advancing, just slowly.
Right, patience is key there. Finally, for family-sponsored final action dates, let's examine F4. This covers brothers and sisters of adult U.S. citizens' notoriously long waits here.
Yes, F4 is known for its extensive backlogs. In September 2025, all chargeability in China were both at January 1st, 2008. India was at November 1st, 2006. Mexico was at March 15, 2001. And the Philippines was at January 1st, 2006.
Okay, what happened in October?
Well, as we look at October 2025, all chargeability, China and India saw no change. They remained anchored at January 8, 2008 and November 1st, 2006, respectively.
No movement at all.
Known for those groups. However, Mexico did advance slightly to April 8, 2001, and the Philippines moved forward to March 22, 2006.
So a bit of a mixed bag here, with some complete stagnation alongside some minor movements.
That's an astute observation. The complete lack of movement for all chargeability, China and India in the F4 categories signals, deeply entrenched backlogs and persistent, overwhelming demand. It's simply preventing any forward shift, even with the fresh allocation of numbers at the start of a new fiscal year. For our Indian listeners, this specific stagnation here in F4, and we saw it in EB1 earlier, it's a stark reminder of the immense pressure from high-demand countries. While others might be current or making incremental progress, India remains anchored in this category. For those waiting, this means the wait regrettably continues. And for some, strategic planning might involve exploring other potential pathways, though, legislative changes that could alleviate these specific bottlenecks are rare and often unpredictable.
That's tough news.
It is. However, Mexico did manage a small advancement of about 3 weeks, and the Philippines moved forward by approximately 2.5 months. This highlights the varying pressure across different chargeability areas within the same preference category. Specific country limits or comparatively lower demand can allow for some progress, even if the general category remains largely stuck.
Okay, now that we've charted the final action dates, the moment of truth for many, let's shift our gaze to the dates for filing. This is about getting your foot in the door, isn't it? These are the crucial deadlines that tell applicants when they can actually begin assembling their documentation for future processing. Getting ready.
Precisely. It's the preparatory phase, signaling when you can get your ducks in a row. Let's start with F1 filing dates. In September 2025 for filing, all chargeability, China and India were at September 1st, 2017. Mexico was at June 1st, 2006. The Philippines was at April 22, 2015. Now, for October 2025, all chargeability, China, India, and the Philippines saw no change in their filing dates. Still September 1st, 2017 or April 22, 2015, respectively. However, Mexico did advance to October 8, 2006.
So, largely stagnant for F1 filing dates, with Mexico being the notable exception, getting a bit of a boost.
That's correct. Mexico saw a decent advancement of about 4 months, which is positive news, as it allows more applicants from Mexico to prepare and submit their essential documentation to NBC. The stability for other areas, however, suggests that the National Visa Center currently has sufficient capacity for the pending demand in those regions relative to their current cutoff dates. In essence, they aren't proactively inviting a large new wave of applications at this exact moment from those other areas.
Okay. What about F2A filing dates? We saw huge movement in final action.
Yes, let's see if filing follows suit. In September 2025, we saw a uniform cutoff across all chargeability. China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines all stood at June 1st, 2025 for filing. In October 2025, all of these categories advanced to September 22, 2025.
Another incredibly strong move for F2A, even in the filing dates. This mirrors the positive final action date movement, doesn't it? That's great consistency.
Absolutely. This is a very robust and consistent advancement of over 3 months across all chargeability areas. This doesn't happen by accident. It indicates a proactive and strategic measure by the Department of State to allow a significantly larger pool of F2A applicants to prepare their visa applications. This aligns perfectly with the dramatic movement we observed in the final action dates, signaling a concerted effort to process this category efficiently. For you, this is a clear signal. If you are eligible based on this new filing date, get your documents ready without delay.
Good advice. Now, a slightly more complex picture emerges with F2B, unmarried sons and daughters, 21 plus, of permanent residence, for the filing dates.
Okay, F2B filing. In September 2025, all chargeability, China and India were at January 1st, 2017. Mexico is at April 1st, 2008. The Philippines was at October 1st, 2013.
However, for October 2025, all chargeability, China, India, and the Philippines saw no change. But Mexico actually retrogressed quite significantly. It went back to December 15, 2008. Now, this is interesting, a retrogression for Mexico in F2B filing dates. What exactly does this signify, and what should our listeners from Mexico understand? That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, this retrogression for Mexico and F2B filing dates is a critical development and definitely a point of caution. We're looking at a significant rollback of about 8.5 months. This means that for the time being, fewer F2B applicants from Mexico can currently submit their documentation to the National Visa Center. Such retrogressions, even in filing dates, often occur when the demand for visas in a particular category or country, well, it unexpectedly outpaces the available numbers or projected availability. It requires a temporary rollback of the cutoff date to manage the pipeline effectively.
So they're tapping the brakes.
Exactly. It's a mechanism to prevent an overwhelming surge of applications that simply cannot be processed in a timely manner given the annual limits. For affected applicants from Mexico, this means their ability to even file has been pushed back, necessitating continued patience and diligent monitoring of future bulletins. It underscores the dynamic and sometimes unpredictable nature of these visa queues.
Okay. What about F3 filing dates?
Shifting to F3 filing dates. In September 2025, all chargeability, China and India were at July 22, 2012. Mexico was at June 15, 2001. The Philippines was at May 1, 2005. In October 2025, all chargeability, China, India, and Mexico saw no change in their filing dates. They stayed put. The Philippines, however, did advance to August 1, 2005.
So mostly stable here again, with only a slight gain for the Philippines in F3 filing.
Indeed, about 3 months of advancement for the Philippines, while other regions remain static. This reflects ongoing, modest processing for Filipino F3 applicants, allowing a small, steady number more to get their documentation ready. The stability for the other regions indicates that the current filing pipeline is manageable, and there's no immediate need to invite a larger volume of new applications into the system right now.
Makes sense. And for F4 filing dates?
Yeah.
The brother-sister category.
Right, F4 filing dates. In September 2025, all chargeability in China were at January 1, 2009. India was at December 1, 2006. Mexico was at April 30, 2001. The Philippines was at January 1, 2008.
Now for October 2025, I see some red here. All chargeability in China retrogressed to March 4, 2009. India retrogressed to December 15, 2006. Mexico and the Philippines saw no change. More retrogressions here for F4 filing, especially for all chargeability in China. What's driving this pattern of retrogressions specifically at the filing stage? It feels like we're seeing a bit of a trend.
This is a concerning pattern, yeah. We're seeing it's a 2-month retrogression for all chargeability China and a 15-day retrogression for India in their F4 filing dates. This isn't merely a delay, it's a strategic recalibration by the State Department to manage the pipeline, as we discussed. It signals that the current volume of pending applications, or perhaps an unexpected surge in demand for this category from these regions, has far outstripped the immediate or projected availability of visas. It's a necessary measure to prevent the system from being overwhelmed and to manage expectations based on the annual visa numbers available for the fiscal year.
So again, pumping the brakes on new applications coming in.
Exactly. These retrogressions indicate that even for the filing stage, the queue is quite extensive in these categories and regions. The system needs to slow down the intake of new applications to allow processing to catch up. For you, the listener affected by this, it means a longer wait to even submit your documents, adding another layer of challenge to an already lengthy process.
All right, let's pivot our focus now to employment-based preferences, a critical area for professionals and skilled workers worldwide. We'll start again with the final action dates, which, as we know, are the ultimate determinant of visa issuance or green card approval.
Absolutely. Beginning with first preference, EB1, for priority workers. Think multinational executives, outstanding researchers, people with extraordinary ability. In September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were current. C, which is the best status, indicating immediate availability of numbers. China, however, was at November 15, 2022, and India at February 15, 2022, both indicating significant backlogs already.
And for October, did that current status hold?
Yes, for October 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines remain current. so that's good news. China advanced slightly to December 22, 2022, about a month forward. However, India's final action date regrettably remained anchored at February 15th, 2022. No movement there.
So good news here for most, maintaining the current status is huge. But India in EB1 seems stubbornly stuck. Still February 2022.
That's a critical observation, yeah. The current status for most categories is indeed excellent, signaling ample visa numbers readily available for priority workers in those areas. China saw a modest advancement of about a month, indicating a slow but steady chipping away at its backlog. But the stagnation for India in EB1 is a stark reminder of the immense pressure from high-demand countries. While others are current or making progress, India remains anchored at February 15, 2022. For our Indian listeners in EB1, this means the wait continues and strategic planning becomes even more critical. It might be prudent to explore alternative visa pathways if applicable, or to closely monitor if any legislative changes or shifts in unused visa recapture could unexpectedly alleviate this specific bottleneck later in the fiscal year, though as I said, such changes are rare and unpredictable in their timing and impact.
Right. It really highlights how demand from specific regions can uniquely influence processing times.
Exactly.
Okay, next. Second preference, EB2. This is for individuals with advanced degrees or exceptional ability.
EB2. In September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were at September 1st, 2023. China was at December 15th, 2020. India, with its well-known, very long backlog, was way back at January 1st, 2013.
And for October 2025, what's news?
We're seeing some encouraging movement here. All chargeability Mexico and the Philippines advanced 3 months to December 1st, 2023. China advanced to April 1st, 2021. That's over 3 months forward. And India made a solid leap forward by 3 months to April 1st, 2013.
Okay, across the board advancements for EB2. That's a very positive sign, isn't it?
Okay.
Good news.
Absolutely. This is a highly encouraging bulletin for the EB2 category globally. Widespread progress. All chargeability Mexico and the Philippines saw that solid 3-month jump. China advanced by over 3.5 months, and India by a respectable 3 months. This widespread progress for EB2 is a very positive indicator, reflecting a healthy initial allocation of numbers for FY 2026. For our audience, this could signal an opportunity, especially if your priority date is getting close to these new cutoffs. However, remember the whiplash effect. Sometimes rapid advancements can lead to future retrogressions if demand quickly overtakes the newly released numbers.
Good point.
So while encouraging, maintaining a cautious optimism and preparing your documents without delay is key. This robust start suggests a strategic effort to move the EB2 queue forward.
Okay, good context. Moving on to third preference, EB3. This covers skilled workers, professionals, and also the other workers subcategory, though we'll look at that separately too.
Right, EB3 skilled professionals first. In September 2025, all chargeability in Mexico were at April 1st, 2023. China was at December 1st, 2020. India was at May 22, 2013. The Philippines was at February 8, 2023. Now for October 2025, all chargeability in Mexico saw no change. Still April 1st, 2023. China, however, advanced to March 1, 2021. That's 3 months forward. India advanced to August 22, 2013. Also 3 months forward. And the Philippines advanced to April 1st, 2023. Almost 2 months forward there.
So, all chargeability in Mexico EB3 categories stayed put, but others did see some movement. Similar pattern, some moving, some not.
Correct. China and India both saw about 3 months of advancement, which is consistent progress. And the Philippines moved forward by almost 2 months. This suggests that while overall demand might keep some categories stable, specific country caps and allocation strategies are allowing others to make headway. For those waiting in China, India, and the Philippines, any forward movement, no matter how incremental, is always good news, confirming that their place in line is indeed progressing. The lack of movement for all chargeability in Mexico points to a stable but persistent backlog in those particular segments.
Okay, and what about the other workers EW category within EB3, often a slower moving queue?
Yes, EW often lags. In September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were at July 8, 2021. China was at May 1st, 2017. India was at May 22, 2013, same as EB3 India.
In October for EW.
For October 2025, all chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines advanced slightly to July 15th, 2021, just 7 days. China, however, advanced significantly to December 1st, 2017. That's a 7-month leap forward. India advanced 3 months to August 22, 2013, mirroring the EB3 skilled professional India movement.
So China and India making notable strides here in EW, while others are much slower. That China jump is big.
Indeed. China saw that remarkable 7-month leap, a substantial gain for this category. India also moved forward by 3 months. The other areas saw only that minor advancement of 7 days. It's also critical to note the NICUR reduction here, that's the Nicaraguan Adjustment and Central American Relief Act adjustment. For FY 2025, this reduction of available visas was 106. But for FY 2026, it's limited to approximately 150. This slight increase in the reduction slightly tightens the overall availability for this EW category.
So fewer visas available overall.
Marginally fewer, yes. So any movement, especially the significant movement for China and India, is particularly valuable given these inherent numerical constraints and the statutory mandates that eat into the total visa pool. It's a tough category to gain ground in.
Understood. Next is fourth preference, EB4, for certain special immigrants. This includes various groups like religious workers, broadcasters, certain physicians.
Right, EB4. In September 2025, a key point. All categories across the board were listed as U, meaning unauthorized or unavailable. A truly challenging situation for many applicants.
Pickle shot down.
And for October 2025, we see a dramatic and very positive change. All EB4 categories moved from U to having a final action date of July 1st, 2020.
This is a huge positive shift, moving from completely unavailable to an actual tangible date. What does this reopening signify? That's great news.
This is a truly significant development. Shifting from unauthorized to a specific final action date of July 1st, 2020, for all chargeability areas represents a substantial reopening of this category. This clearly suggests a fresh and substantial allocation of numbers for FY 2026, allowing applicants with priority dates earlier than July 1st, 2020 to finally proceed. For those who have been in limbo facing a U for so long, this provides a clear pathway forward where none existed just a month ago. They should immediately assess their eligibility and next steps. It's a direct result of the annual reset providing a new numerical budget.
Fantastic. But wait, there's a specific carve-out here for certain religious workers, the SR category, often part of EB4 discussions. What's happening there?
Yes, good distinction. For the certain religious workers, SR category specifically, in September 2025, all categories were also listed as U, unauthorized, unavailable. And regrettably, in October 2025, all SR categories remain U, unauthorized, unavailable.
So EB4 generally opened up, but the religious worker part stayed unavailable. Why the difference?
The unavailable status for religious workers continues in October, impacting both final action and dates for filing. This is a direct consequence of the legislative landscape. The key piece of legislation, H.R. 1968, which extended this SR category, only did so until September 30, 2025. Consequently, no SR visas could be issued or final action taken after midnight on September 29, 2025.
The authorization expired.
Exactly. The bulletin explicitly states that the category is unavailable for October, with a crucial caveat that legislative action extending it would make it available again. This is a critical point for anyone relying on this category. Without further congressional action, this category remains closed, highlighting the profound impact of policy on visa availability. It's separate from the general EB4 movement because its authorization lapsed.
Very important distinction. Okay, moving to fifth preference, EB5, employment creation, the investor visas. Let's start with the unreserved category, for those making investments without targeting specific economic areas.
EB5 unreserved. In September 2025, all chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines were current. See, China was at December 8, 2015. India was at November 15, 2019.
What about October for EB5 unreserved?
For October 2025, all chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines remain current. See, China is still anchored at December 8, 2015, showing no change, still stuck there. But India, wow, advanced significantly to February 1st, 2021.
Another truly huge leap for India here in EB5 unreserved. That's more than a year's jump.
That's a truly massive advancement, yeah, over 1 year and 2 months for India in the EB5 unreserved category. This highlights a significant push to process Indian EB5 cases. It indicates either lower demand relative to available numbers for India or perhaps a strategic release of numbers for this specific group as the new fiscal year begins. For Indian investors, this is a clear window of opportunity. China, however, remains stable at December 8, 2015, indicating a continued and entrenched backlog at that particular date where demand is still exceeding the supply despite the annual refresh. This divergence underscores how different national demands interact with the same visa category.
Okay, and what about the EB5 set-aside categories? Those specifically targeting investments in rural areas, high unemployment areas, and infrastructure projects.
Right, the set-asides. In September 2025, All set-aside categories for all chargeability areas were current. And in October 2025, all categories for all chargeability areas remain steadfastly current.
So consistently wide open and available here, which must be very appealing to qualifying investors looking for speed.
Absolutely. This consistently current status makes these set-aside categories exceptionally attractive for qualifying investors. They offer immediate filing and processing eligibility, reinforcing the policy goal of directing foreign investment to these specific areas that the U.S. government seeks to develop. For those looking at the EB-5 program, these set-aside categories clearly offer a faster, more predictable pathway compared to the unreserved option, especially for people from countries facing backlogs like China and India in the unreserved pool.
Makes perfect sense. Now let's quickly run through the dates for filing for employment-based visa applications. This gives us that crucial heads up on who can prepare their documents and get into the queue.
Right, the filing dates. Starting with EB-1 filing dates. In September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were current. C. China was at January 1st, 2023. India was at April 15th, 2022. For October 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines remain current. C. China advanced nicely to May 15th, 2023. However, India's filing date remains stuck at April 15th, 2022. No movement for India filing in EB-1.
Okay, good movement for China getting documents in, but India is still waiting to move for filing, even in this premium EB-1 category. That mirrors the final action date.
That's a critical distinction, yes. China saw a solid advancement of over 4 months, which is a positive sign for Chinese applicants in EB-1, allowing a good number more to begin assembling their documentation. India's date, however, remains stubbornly unchanged. This reinforces our earlier observation of a persistent backlog in this category for Indian applicants, even at the filing stage. It signals a bottleneck where demand continues to outstrip the ability to process applications, making this a frustrating point for many.
Frustrating indeed. Okay, EB-2 filing dates.
For EB-2 filing dates, in September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were at November 15th, 2023. China was at January 1st, 2021. India, again, was significantly behind at February 1st, 2013. Now, for October 2025, we see truly significant forward movement here, too. All chargeability Mexico and the Philippines advanced all the way to July 15th, 2024.
Wow, July 2024, that's huge.
It is. China advanced to December 1st, 2021, and India made a substantial leap forward to December 1st, 2013.
These are huge gains for EB-2 filing dates, practically across the board. This suggests a really proactive approach, letting people get ready.
Indeed, this is a very positive and robust sign, signaling a clear strategic move. All chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines saw that impressive 8-month jump. China advanced by almost a full year, and India by a solid 10 months. This widespread forward movement strongly suggests that the Department of State is actively preparing to process a significant volume of EB-2 applications in the coming months. It indicates confidence in future visa availability and a clear effort to clear the pipeline. For you, this means a significant window has opened to prepare and submit your visa application documentation if your priority date is earlier than these new filing dates.
Excellent news for EB-2.
Yeah.
What about EB-3 filing dates?
Looking at EB-3 filing dates. In September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were at May 1st, 2023. China was at December 22, 2020. India was at June 8th, 2013. For October 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines advanced 2 months to July 1st, 2023. China advanced significantly to January 1st, 2022. That's over a year forward. And India made a very substantial move forward to August 15, 2014, also over a year, closer to 14 months.
More incredibly strong advancements here for China and India filing in EB-3 particularly. Big jumps.
You're right. China saw an advancement of over a year, and India moved forward by over 1 year and 2 months. Truly remarkable progress for these high-demand countries at the filing stage. Other areas saw that moderate 2-month advancement. This is robust movement for filing applications in this category, showing a clear, concerted effort to push the pipeline along and invite a greater volume of applications to be prepared for future final action. This should be a welcome development for many.
Definitely. And the other workers, EW category filing dates.
For EW filing, in September 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines were at July 22, 2021. China was at January 1st, 2018. India was at June 8, 2013, same as EB-3 India. For October 2025, all chargeability Mexico and the Philippines advanced to December 1st, 2021. Over 4 months forward, China advanced to October 1st, 2018, that's 9 months forward. And India again moved forward substantially to August 15th, 2014, mirroring the EB-3 India filing date jump.
More substantial forward motion for EW filing dates here as well. Good to see.
Precisely. All chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines advanced by over 4 months. China saw that 9-month jump, and India again moved forward by over 1 year and 2 months. This broad advancement signals that many more other workers applicants are now eligible to assemble their documentation, which is particularly encouraging given the typically slower movement in this category due to its statutory limitations. It's a good start to the fiscal year for this group, at least for filing.
Okay, EB4 filing dates, final action open up.
Right, fourth preference, EB4 filing dates. In September 2025, all categories were at February 1st, 2021. For October 2025, all categories advanced just slightly to February 15th, 2021.
Small but consistent movement here for filing.
Indeed, a modest 15-day advancement across all areas. This indicates a slow but steady processing pipeline for this category, even at the filing stage. While not a huge leap, it's a reliable sign that the queue is indeed moving forward, which is especially important given its recent unavailable status for final action dates. It shows the system is beginning to process applications consistently again.
Okay. Now, the certain religious workers, SR category filing dates, this follows the final action date problem, right?
Yes, unfortunately. In September 2025, perhaps surprisingly, all SR categories did have a filing date listed. February 1st, 2021.
But for October 2025, all categories are now, unfortunately, unauthorized, unavailable for filing as well. So here's a clear retrogression for filing eligibility, perfectly aligning with the unavailable final action status due to that legislative expiration.
Exactly. This category had a filing date in September, offering a glimmer of hope for people to get documents ready, but for October, it's listed as unavailable for filing, just like the final action dates. This unequivocally underscores the immediate and direct impact of the legislative expiration on September 30, 2025, which effectively halted all new processing and filings. It's a stark reminder that even if your date was once current for filing, legislative inaction can quickly reverse that, leaving applicants completely in limbo.
Such a clear example of policy impact. Okay, finally, EB5 filing dates. First, the unreserved category.
EB5 unreserved filing dates. In September 2025, all chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines were current. C. China was at October 1st, 2016. India was at April 1st, 2022. Now for October 2025, all chargeability, Mexico and the Philippines remain current. However, China retrogressed its filing date back to July 1st, 2016. India remains stable at April 1st, 2022. No change for India filing.
Interesting. A retrogression for China in EB5 unreserved filing while India holds steady. What's behind this particular shift for China filing eligibility?
This 3-month retrogression for China's EB5 unreserved filing date indicates an adjustment, again, to manage the demand pipeline for Chinese applicants in this category. It suggests either a significant influx of applications that the State Department needs time to process before accepting more, or perhaps a reassessment of available numbers that has led to a temporary pullback in who can even submit documents. It's a strategic move to prevent the queue from becoming unmanageable at the NVC stage. India's stability, however, suggests a consistent processing pace for that country, maintaining the filing eligibility established back in April 2022. It shows that even within the same category, the demand dynamics for different countries can lead to very different outcomes for filing eligibility.
Fascinating how those pressures work. And lastly, the EB5 set-aside filing dates. Rural, high unemployment infrastructure, still current.
Yes. In September 2025, all set-aside categories for all chargeability areas were current for filing. And in October 2025, all categories for all chargeability areas remain consistently current for filing as well. Still wide open for these set-aside investment categories for both filing and final action. Very clear message there.
This consistently current status makes these set-aside categories extremely attractive for qualifying investors. They continue to offer immediate filing and processing eligibility, reinforcing that policy goal of directing investment to these specific, often underserved areas. For investors prioritizing speed and certainty, these categories are the clear choice. Okay, let's shift gears dramatically now to the diversity visa program. This is truly where we see the most drastic shift, isn't it? The complete transition from DV 2025 to a fresh start with DV 2026. It's like hitting a massive reset button on the entire lottery cycle.
Precisely, you said it perfectly. The September Bulletin covered DV 2025, which concluded definitively on September 30, 2025. That marked the absolute end of that fiscal year's program. No more visas after that date for DV 2025 selectees. The October Bulletin, however, wipes the slate clean and starts fresh with DV 2026, which will run its course until September 30, 2026. This distinction is absolutely crucial for understanding the dramatically different numbers we're about to discuss. We're comparing the end of one race to the very beginning of the next.
Right, and even the annual limits themselves see some adjustments based on various legislative mandates, don't they? It's not always the full 55,000.
Exactly. For DV 2025, as covered in the September Bulletin, the annual limit for visas was actually 52,056. This number came after reductions due to legislative mandates like the Nicaraguan Adjustment and Central American Relief Act, NACRA, and the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, which chipped away from the initial 55,000 statutory cap. Now for DV 2026, in the October Bulletin, the annual limit is estimated at approximately 54,850 after the NACRA reduction. And then it's further reduced to approximately 52,000 due to the NDAA for fiscal year 2024. So, while the total statutory cap remains 55,000, these legislative mandates consistently reduce the actual number of available visas each year. The estimated reduction for DV 2026 is very similar to DV 2025, around 52,000 visas available in practice, indicating continued legislative influence and a consistent level of pressure on this program.
Got it. So, as expected with the new lottery cycle kicking off, all regional cutoff numbers are drastically lower for October, marking the start of DV 2026 compared to September's final, much higher DV 2025 numbers. This truly is that reset button in action.
That's the perfect analogy. Let's delve into the specifics for each region, comparing the final sub-DV 2025 number with the starting DV 2026 number for Africa. In September 2025, DV 2025, the overall cutoff was 58,500. Specific exceptions included Algeria at 54,500, Egypt at 52,000, and Morocco at 40,500. Now, for October 2025, DV 2026, the overall starting cutoff has plummeted to 17,500. Within that, Algeria starts at 14,500 and Egypt at 16,000.
Huge drop.
A dramatic reduction, from nearly 60,000 down to 17,500. Notably, Morocco is no longer listed as a separate exception for DV 2026, which implies its demand is currently falling within the general African cutoff at this initial stage. For Asia, in September 2025, DV 2025, the overall cutoff was 14,500, with Iran listed separately at 11,000 and Nepal at 14,450.
Right. For October 2025, DV 2026, the overall starting cutoff is now 10,000, with Nepal listed separately starting at 6,000. So Asia's overall cutoff also dropped significantly, and Nepal has a much lower specific starting cutoff for DV 2026.
Yes, the regional cutoff fell from 14,500 down to 10,000. Interestingly, Iran is also no longer listed separately as an exception in the DV 2026 initial bulletin, which is a change from DV 2025. Nepal's specific cutoff decreased from 14,450 down to a starting point of 6,000. These lower initial cutoffs are entirely typical for the beginning of the fiscal year, as only a portion of the annual allocation is made available right away. We will undoubtedly see how they progress each month.
Makes sense. Europe.
Looking at Europe, in September 2025, DV 2025, the overall cutoff was 23,000, with specific country numbers for Russia at 22,950 and Uzbekistan at 15,000. For October 2025, DV 2026, the overall starting cutoff has dropped way down to a very low 7,750.
That's a very steep drop here, and intriguingly, no individual country exceptions are listed for Europe at the start.
Indeed, a dramatic reduction from 23,000 down to 7,750. Russia and Uzbekistan are no longer broken out separately. This suggests the demand is currently falling within the general European numbers for DV 2026, at least initially. This is a common pattern for the start of a new DV year, where specific country cutoffs are often removed until demand within that country dictates their reintroduction later in the year. It implies that for this very first month, the general cutoff is sufficient to cover early demand across the region.
Okay. North America, Bahamas.
North America, specifically for the Bahamas, also saw a notable shift reflecting the reset. In September 2025, DV 2025, it was listed as current. For October 2025, DV 2026, it is now listed with a specific starting number, 20.
From current to 20.
The shift from current to a specific, very low number like 20 highlights that fundamental reset perfectly. Current meant all qualified applicants could proceed, regardless of their rank number. Now, for DV 2026, only those selectees with rank numbers below 20 are initially eligible, marking a clear and precise start to the new DV 2026 cycle for the Bahamas. It's a complete restart of the allocation process.
Got it. And quickly, Oceania and South America.
For Oceania, in September 2025, DV 2025, the cutoff was 1,775. For October 2025, DV 2026, it starts at 1,100. For South America and the Caribbean, in September 2025, DV 2025, it was 2,825. For October 2025 DV 2026, it starts at 1,850.
So we're seeing a similar pattern for Oceania and South America Caribbean, lower starting numbers across the board for the new cycle, completely expected.
Yes, precisely reflecting the initial allocation for DV 2026. And this emphasizes a crucial point for all diversity visa selectees, no matter the region. Entitlement to DV status only lasts through the end of the fiscal year for which the applicant is selected, in this case, September 30, 2026, for all these DV 2026 applicants. It truly is a use it or lose it scenario within that specific time frame. No numbers may be issued after that September 30th date. So understanding these cutoffs and initiating early processing as soon as your number is current is absolutely key for these lottery selectees to capitalize on their selection. Hashtag special notes and important considerations.
Before we wrap up, there are a couple other notes in the bulletins worth mentioning, right?
Yes, a couple of important ones. Both the September and October bulletins reiterate an important note regarding U.S. government employees' special immigrant visas, or SIVs. These are specific visas designed for those who have supported the U.S. mission abroad, often in perilous environments. The National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for fiscal year 2024, which was signed back on December 22, 2023, may indeed affect certain current and former U.S. government employees abroad, as well as their surviving spouses and children who are applying for these SIVs. However, the bulletin explicitly states that this does not affect Iraqis and Afghans applying for the specific SUTAC SIV programs.
Okay, important distinction there.
Very important. Those specific programs have their own legislative frameworks. Applicants in potentially omitted SIV categories are unequivocally advised to contact their consular section for specific guidance. The nuances of this NDAA legislation can be complex and highly case-specific, requiring tailored advice. And the other point, which we touched on earlier, was that the September Bulletin also provided some detail on how the worldwide numerical limitations are determined by the State Department annually based on data from USCIS. Just reiterating those FY 2025 numbers, 226,000 for family-sponsored and 150,037 for employment-based, with that per-country limit around 26,323. That foundational info underpins all the dates we've discussed.
Right, good to remember the framework. Hashtag tag outro. Okay, so what does this all mean for you, our listener? Our deep dive into the October 2025 Visa Bulletin, contrasted meticulously with September's, truly reveals, well, a mixed but generally forward-moving picture for the critical start of this new fiscal year, FY 2026. We observed truly significant, even unprecedented, advancements in F2A final action and filing dates, offering considerable and immediate relief for spouses and children of permanent residents. That was huge. Employment-based categories like EB2 and EB3 also showed widespread, robust progress in both final action and filing dates across many countries, which is undeniably great news for many professionals and skilled workers. The reopening of EB4 from previous unavailable status is also a notable positive, providing a clear pathway where none existed before for many special immigrants.
Right. On the other hand, we did observe some frustrating retrogressions, particularly in F2B and F4 filing dates for specific countries like Mexico and China. That indicates continued immense pressure and the need for careful pipeline management by the State Department. The employment-based religious worker category remains stubbornly unavailable due to that legislative expiration, which is an absolutely critical consideration for that specific group, highlighting the profound and immediate impact of policy decisions on visa availability. And of course, the diversity visa program has completely reset for DV 2026, as anticipated, presenting significantly lower initial cutoff numbers across all regions, marking the fresh, competitive beginning of a new lottery cycle.
And this isn't just a dry list of numbers and dates. For you, understanding these dynamic shifts means gaining the power to anticipate your next steps, prepare your documentation with precision, and set realistic expectations for your unique immigration journey. The movement, or lack thereof, in these bulletins is a real-time snapshot of dynamic global demand for U.S. immigration and the U.S. government's processing capacity. These changes don't just affect statistics, they dictate life-altering decisions and timelines for countless individuals and families around the world.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with. Given the substantial, almost aggressive advancements we've observed in key categories like F2A, EB2, and EB3 right at the very beginning of the new fiscal year, what might this signal about the overall strategy for visa allocation and backlog management in FY 2026? Will these initial accelerations be sustained throughout the entire year, leading to faster processing overall? Or are they potentially front-loaded efforts designed to strategically clear out a backlog of demand from previous fiscal years, which could then perhaps lead to a slowdown or even further retrogressions later in the year as those initial numbers are used up? It's a complex dance between supply, demand, and strategic allocation that bears watching closely each month.
That's a truly powerful and provocative thought to leave you with, something to definitely keep an eye on in future bulletins. We hope this deep dive has given you a much clearer, more strategic understanding of the latest Visa Bulletin changes and their real-world implications. Keep learning, keep asking those incisive questions, and we'll be here next time to help you navigate another complex and vital topic.
Until then, stay informed, continue to critically evaluate the evolving landscape of immigration, and act strategically based on the latest information.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.